Opening faceoff, there's Ryan Smith. Hello, Ryan. Thanks so much for joining us today live on Frankly Hockey. And, you bought the Jazz late in 2020. A little less than 4 years later, you agree to take on and rebrand the Arizona Coyotes. I'm curious, now that you've had a couple years, what's the difference between owning an NBA team and an NHL team day to day?
What's up, guys? Yeah, it's first of all, and I've told Gary this, the crossover and the synergies between hockey and hoops operating in the same building under the same ownership group is the coolest synergy I've ever seen in business. In business, we're always looking for 1 and 1 equals 3, or like these synergies that go together. And you're going to even see it with our practice facilities where, the players are set up on both sides, but they're actually together. And so I think that culturally there's a lot that's different, primarily from the team aspect of hockey and, having to have 4 lines that all work together to the NBA, not as many guys, and, one star matters more than maybe on the ice. But when it comes down to it, 82 games is a grind on both sides, and we're in it. We played hoops last night. We had the Maple Leafs the night before. We got the Stars and the Mavericks, one at home, one away, both tonight. And so, it's often me sitting with SEG Plus out there watching the side-by-side and the games going. Hockey is a lot more stressful than hoops. I'll just tell you that right now, because, you can always make a run in the last 5 minutes or 3 minutes. When you're down a couple goals, it's hard to come back in hockey. And but to be honest with you, it's literally, and I think what we're seeing in Utah, it's the thing that everyone didn't know they needed, but they're absolutely in love with.
So, Ryan, that begs the question I got to ask. You sent this out last night. You played some midnight hoops. Where's your hockey game at right now?
Yeah, my hockey game is horrible and non-existent. BYU played TCU last night, and I've got a group of guys that we play basketball with. We played for like 15 years. We have a text thread that's called Ball is Life, and we play every morning at 6 a.m. And last night we were texting at like 7, and it's kind of like you got to fill it up. And then once we get to like 12 or 13 guys, it's like it's shut off. And we said, hey, let's play. Well, there was a 9 o'clock tip for BYU TCU, and someone responded and said, hey, let's play at the Marriott Center right after. And I was like, what? And it's like, we're going to play right after the ESPN game at midnight. And literally we played. I got home at like 1:30, and it was good, and as long as I can keep doing that, I got to find more time for hockey. Like I'm up there in Sandy at the practice rink. All my stuff's up there. I got to get into it. But I could see a world where that's going to shift, where we're going to be playing a lot more hockey.
So
My guess
does that mean we can do midnight pickup hockey games at Delta Center? And while you're talking about Delta Center, can you give us an update? I know the big summer renovation was complete. The lower bowl's completely changed. But what's next, the next step in the process at Delta Center?
Yeah, next step is we've got both of the end zones that have to be done behind the goals. And, the lower bowl's all set. Currently at the Delta Center, if you're the second row of the upper bowl, you can't see that net below you. And so what we tried to do is we tried to make this unique basketball experience and hockey experience configure together. And so on one side, which is, our net side, that'll start this summer. And then we'll also release plans of what's happening on the other side and configuring the whole arena. I mean, we took out, 5 million pounds of concrete from the bowl to be able to make these risers configure. And it's a lot more work. I mean, when we break like a riser bolt, which we've done a couple times, we're like panicking at 4 a.m. Can we get it all set up? But the team's doing amazing, and they found a way. And, Gary Bettman was here last week, and we walked up the stairs behind the goal, and he's like, "This is steep." And I was like, "Yeah, Gary, if you fall, you're going to be playing defense for the Mammoth because you're going to go right down to the ice." So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I did a game there a couple months ago, and it did remind me old school Hartford Civic Center, Boston Garden, really steep. The vibe is really awesome. First time in Salt Lake
Yeah,
for me. I fell in love with the city instantly. You already had the great airport. We went over that before. Phenomenal airport. And I tell you, the
yeah,
staff, Ryan, I don't know if this is your thing, but man, it reminded me of going to Golden State Warrior basketball games in Oakland. That staff was just so kind and warm. And everyone in the arena at the Delta, it was the same way. They're just so kind and warm. And it's not like that everywhere. I'm just curious, like you obviously have a feel for basketball. You play it, you understand the flow. I
yeah,
imagine you can probably look at your team and say, I have an opinion that's probably pretty informed. Hockey, maybe not
yeah.
quite as much yet. You'll get there at one point. Does that affect how you talk to your general manager in each sport? Like your guys for the Mammoth, your window is like there. You're like 2 players away, 3 players
Yeah,
away
for
from
sure.
being like contending for a championship. So how do you deal with your competitive side and wanting to be better quicker by talking to your general managers?
Well, so it's interesting. We had all of our pro scouts in yesterday in Utah. Their families came into, the spouses, significant others, having a little thing,
Oh,
and there were all the meetings. I went up and met with Chris Armstrong and Bill Armstrong and all of them yesterday. We spent 2 hours or so going through current, future, draft, free agency, and kind of what's going on in our minor league, because I think what's not talked about is who we've got sitting down there. If you look at the junior Canadian team with Cole and Caleb and Tej, like we've got a pretty good
hmm.
squad coming up too. Um, and Bill's done a great job with that. I've got to be the fastest learner in the building. I think ownership can be super dangerous as well, because you've got to understand the power of your shadow, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
when you talk, people listen, and you've got to create a culture where they are not afraid to push back on you. I want massive pushback on me because I know enough to be dangerous. And when it comes to the Jazz, like I getting into hoops, I always wanted to be involved in basketball, and I would go play golf with Danny Ainge. And what I loved
Hmm.
about Danny is we are like fierce rivals and competitors. And coming into this role, I want someone who's going to check me and push back. The worst thing that can happen is an owner or ownership with no pushback. Because like at the end of the day, it's not, when someone's holding the Stanley Cup or the Larry O'Brien Trophy, there's no extra points for going alone,
Hmm.
right? It's like if you're holding it, like who cares who's around? Just get the trophy. And so, like there was a lot of good debate, and I don't know. I understand process, I understand leadership, and I understand business decision making, and a lot of that can come over and help check their work. And so we went back and forth on a lot of things yesterday, and it's like, okay, well, if this is going to happen and the deadline and this and that, like that doesn't make sense, or what do we get here? And then also, I have another purview that they don't have. I understand the financial picture.
Hmm.
I understand like how that plays out. I understand where we are as an organization, and a lot of decisions, are 59, 49, 51, and they're kind of both bad options or both good options. You need something to tie break that. And so, so far, so good, but I only know enough to be dangerous. Um, but I also think a lot of the other business principles are universal. You know, leadership is universal. It's not something that, you look at. I always believe that Danny Ainge could run any organization I've ever been a part of on tech or something else.
Hmm.
Um, Leadership is good. And we've seen that oftentimes where in government or something, where if you pull a great leader out, they tend to succeed in other things.
So, Ryan, what have you found is the best way to foster that environment, not just for pushback, but also, making people comfortable enough to push back? And then how do you think that culture that you've wanted to develop has fostered into your team. Like Clayton Keller told a beautiful story about the support that you guys have provided as an organization, just for instance, with his dad's untimely passing and how sad that was, and how you guys stepped up as a group to really make him feel that support. How does that trickle down to the players?
Well, so first of all, I think it's impossible to do the job if you're not in the details. I think it starts there, because you almost know enough to be dangerous. I'll never forget when we were going through a major draft class, and I had just grabbed Danny out of Boston, and he came in, and it was like 2 months before the draft. He said, unfortunately, I can't opine here on this draft. I haven't done the work. And so I think for part of this is our team needs to see, and I need to see. I have to be doing the work. If I want a voice, you got to do the work. You've got to be in there. And, that involves with the players culturally. It involves with scouting, and it involves with the cap. It involves with watching a lot of hockey outside of our team. I've got to put the work in outside, because if you don't understand how we fit in context, and you're just watching your group, and you're not watching Colorado, or you're not watching, Tampa, then it's hard to be like, okay, well, great. Well, Logan Cooley's hurt, but hey, did you know that every team's got hurt players? We still got to go, right? And I think sometimes you get a little too close to your own situation. And so, for me, that's really where it's at. And then you take that information, and you get really smart people around who also hopefully are secure enough with their jobs and everything else that they're not afraid to push back. And that is a culture, and you got to make it okay. And my job is I've got to tell them that and be like, hey, look, you're not going to offend me. Tell me what's wrong with this. Why doesn't this make sense? It seems logical here. Why wouldn't we do that? But seriously, push back. And if you don't push back, you can't be in the room.
Last one for me, Rye. Again, the Winter Classic. Why was that important to get that event? And two, what can it do for your brand regionally and nationally?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think historically Winter Classics have served different things, but mostly it's been a celebration of hockey. Mm-hmm. We did something interesting. We just changed jerseys for hoops, and we did this massive jersey exchange. And looking back, it was why would anyone launch a brand without putting 2,000 to 3,000 new jerseys out in the market in an exchange? Looking back, it seems so obvious. You're going to go redo your entire color scheme, launch something new, but you're not going to infiltrate the market with this. I think the Winter Classic should be on the front end of something like that. Now, we don't have these moments like Utah often, but it seems like this is part of still the brand launch of the Utah Mammoth. And I think if you think about who's going to be in that arena, and you actually go down to the persona level of the person from Utah, a lot of them are saying, hey, first of all, we're in the fast-growing state with the youngest demographic. A lot of people who have moved to Utah might not affiliate with the Jazz or the University of Utah, or they might have their own teams. Most of them, though, and this is what we see, are me and my family, one of the things we are doing, we're going all in on the Mammoth. And this is their first moment. Second is, the amount of ticket requests I got this year between the 25th and 2nd for skiing in Utah for people in town. We have 7 million people that come in and ski and come to Utah. And the reason why is because it's the best winter sports destination on the planet, because you literally land, and from the Delta Center, 20 minutes away, there's 7 ski resorts.
Wow.
No one has that. We're headed out to Milan, and we're okay, we're skiing 4 hours away. Now, I'm not hammering Milan, but it's just set up so it's easy. Skiing's hard enough as it is in winter sports to get everything on and go through it all. Ease of use is incredible. And so we're going to have this influx of people who are going to come in and be like, oh, this is what we're going to go do. We're going to come into Utah. We're going to hit the Winter Classic. We're going to hit the slopes. And like, holy cow, what a New Year's event that we're going to have out there. And so it's our job to go decorate that and go put on a show. It's also an incredible preamble for the Olympics. You know, we're having Olympic Games here. They're going to be in the Delta Center. This is a little bit, and the opening ceremonies are going to be at Rice-Eccles. And so I think we're starting to get that muscle going to say, hey, this is what's going on. I'm headed over to Milan. I'm looking at opening ceremonies. I'm going through all of it. It's literally a reconnaissance mission. We're like trying to figure out like every little detail. What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Is there any ideas we can get? How are we going to go put on a show? And, you know, in my sick world, I don't know why that gets me, but I guess that, you know, it's very rare that you get to represent a state in a position like we're in. And, you know, I just can't tell you what hockey's done to bring this community together and kind of lifted it. And more than that, I look at hockey where hockey is today, and I told this to Gary this week, all I see is opportunity. Because if you get someone in the building, I've never seen a visceral reaction for any event like this. And I don't want to be talking about the Four Nations anymore. Let's talk about the next event, the next event, the next event. How do we do that? And let's talk about putting it on air and getting the visual side to match up with the inner-arena side, whatever it's going to cost us. However, we've got to innovate around that. And so it's cool because all the things that I think we need in this world, in this country, are represented on the ice. The teamwork, the toughness, the we over I. Like, that's what I want to teach my kids.
Really well said. Yeah, life is lived in the corners, and you got to be good in the corners in life, and you got to be good in the corners in hockey, or you're going to lose. And so, man, what a breath of fresh air you've been. You've adrenalized the sport in a unique way that no other owner ever has in the history of the sport. That's not even hyperbole. So, again, what you've done at Utah and really bailing out the situation in Arizona, it could not have turned out any better. Again, future success. Love going to the Delta Center. Can't wait for my next game there. And good luck with all the endeavors in the future as you continue to grow the Mammoth.
Yeah. Smile, Frank.
I'm always smiling.
There we go.
Ryan, got him
all
to
right.
smile.
Well, look forward to have you guys out. I got him to smile.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks so much, Ryan.